I hope everyone's doing super great. So super excited. We're going to be going through SEO and AI for the next 30 minutes roughly. I saw that most people are interested in this topic. So super glad that we'll be going through this, right? So the topic is SEO 2.0, right? Like a lot of people have been calling this GEO, many different names, but at Scale, we think of this as just an evolution of SEO that we're going to go through now, right? We're going to be looking at how LLMs are reshaping SEO. What is SEO? What is changing, right? So if you guys have any questions, feel free to put them into the chat. I'll be watching the chat. I can see the chat right now. So if you're watching, like, I guess, put like, what is your biggest like AI SEO challenge right now? What questions do you have? Put them in the chat right now, and I will answer them throughout the next 30 minutes, right? But let's get started with this presentation, right? So first we need to kind of dive into the future before we can get back to the present, right? At Scale, we've been imagining what is the future of search? Where are we going to be in 5 to 10 years time? And we've been making bets so we can work backwards and start preparing ourselves, the SaaS brands we're working with, for this future, right? So does the future look like what you can see right now? But will there be flying taxis, robots walking around the streets? We don't know, right? But we think that the future of SEO is going to be pretty different, right? The places people look for information is going to change. People's habits are going to change. I'm going to go through a few statistics and interesting things in a second, right? So I'm basically going to set the big picture now, and then we're going to go back into the details afterwards, right? So we believe that in 10 years' time, we will be living in a world where people will be searching for information in AI search engines, whether it's ChatGPT, Perplexity, Google's new AI mode that they're testing, launching, and they'll be searching for information in video search engines, right? TikTok, YouTube, etc. A lot of people say TikTok is not a search engine, but the question is, where are people looking for information, right? Where can brands be discovered? So that's kind of like the main idea. So rest in peace, right? We think in 10 years' time, the traditional search engines, how we search for information today, Google, Bing, etc., also review sites like G2, Capterra, they're not going to be a big thing. Maybe they won't even exist anymore as people lose trust, right, in sites like G2, etc., because they know that companies are trying to game the system and they're leveraging different other ways to get information and learn about brands, right? So this is like the big picture. So, and we think there's going to be a massive shift in SaaS in general, right? So this is the old way. This is just an example of HubSpot. The old way is people using SaaS tools in their browser, many different clicks, building automations, reading documentation, having operational like ops people helping you, etc. We think we'll look back and say, why do we do all of this work? It was so complex, right? We believe the future looks something like this, like in 10 years' time. More conversational, native apps. So you won't be going into a CRM like this anymore. You'll just be asking, hey, how many leads did we get yesterday? You'll be asking a conversational interface to get the information that you need, right? So there's a different level of abstraction happening in the future. And therefore, we think perhaps the internet browser will no longer exist in 10 years' time, right? People won't be in browsers anymore. They'll be on their phones, in apps. The world is going to shift, right? So we need to prepare ourselves to get there. So how does this relate to SEO, right? How does this all relate together? So let's get back to today. Let's get back to 2025, right? So is legacy SEO dying? And when I refer to legacy SEO, I'm referring to search on Google, Bing, what we know to be search engines and not AI interfaces, video, etc. Right? So is legacy SEO dying? So yes, but no. So let's dig in some data to set the scene and get some context, right? So here's some data from One Little Web showcasing how big is AI search today, and we can see the trends, right, from the previous 6 months. So we can see today, as of last month, March, it's roughly 4.1% of total searches. So right now it's pretty small in the big scheme of things, right? You can see it slowly been increasing over time, the usage of these different AI search engines. So in 6 months, it's increased by 1.4x. So if we extrapolate this data and make a prediction, then in 6 months' time, it could be 5.6%, and in 1 year, 7.7%, right? So there's some data that's out there that you guys can find. But at Scale, we want to dig down and see what is the reality for SaaS brands, right? So we dug in to many clients. This is all anonymous data. We don't share client data. We anonymize the data to understand how much is AI search contributing against like total search. So we're looking at Search Console data, AI search data from ChatGPT, Perplexity, etc. And this is what we're seeing, right, for SaaS brands, because we believe there's an early majority using these AI search engines, and they haven't arrived yet to this late majority, etc. So therefore, the numbers are higher, right? So what we're seeing right now is 6.5% of total organic search is coming from AI search engines. The rest mainly from Google, right? So this is up from 2% 6 months ago, which is a huge change. I think the biggest catalyst for this was there's just been links. Links are being added, right, to AI search engines, so people can click. But we'll go through a measurement framework in a second. So here's some predictions, right? So 6 months time, like almost 10%. 12 months time, almost 15%, right? So it is going to start become significant. However, this doesn't mean that we need to rush and spend all of our time on AI search, right? I think we should still spend 80% of our time on what we know to be SEO and how it's changing. That we'll go through in a second, some practical tips, and spend 20% of our time preparing for this future that I'm outlining now, right? So here's some other interesting facts to set the scene. Gen Z, right? So Gen Z, this is the age bracket now, 13 to 28 years old. Gen Z is now buying SaaS. They're researching. Their boss or VPs, C-levels are asking them to do the research. They don't like search engines, right? So here's some data that I found. They prefer social media over search engines. So you can see how this trend is changing, right? It's a little bit old, but you can see the trend, right? So half of Gen Z want to go to social media. They don't want to go to search engines. So already the landscape is changing, right? So we have to question ourselves, where are our ICP, champions, etc., looking for information? And we need to start building these moats right now: AI search, video search, social media, etc. Right? So there's some interesting data to kind of set the scene, and also for you guys to kind of understand internally how big of how urgent is this, right? As a project. Search fragmentation, right? So the way people are looking for information is fragmenting. There's more places people are trying to find out about things. People want to find spaces that they can trust. Trust is a very big topic that we'll go through as well. So these legacy search engines that I covered just now, we have video search, AI search, and review websites, right? These are the main places. There's many more places, you can do at Reddit, etc. These are like the main places where people are looking for information, where we need to appear. However, we've made some bets, right? Where we think we'll be in about 10 years' time at Scale. And we believe these are the bets we've made, right? Sorry, in 5 years' time. In 5 years' time, right? Where do we believe we're going to be in 5 years' time? So we think that AI search will increase from 4% to 30%. 1/3 will be AI search. Video search will be on the rise as well, from 7 to 20%. We think a lot of people will be leveraging like YouTube, TikTok, other like video search engines. There's also video in AI search like Perplexity that is very important as well. And this legacy search, as we know today, will decrease, right, from 84% to 50%. This is why it's super, super important, right? So this is kind of setting the scene. This is why it's important. Let's get into how we can measure this, because step number one as a brand is we need to measure where are we today as a brand, right? What's happening right now? And then we can start making changes, and we need to measure all these changes we're making. Is it having an impact? Is it worth our time? Right. So step one is we need to measure AI search. Step two is we have to integrate practical ways to improve where we're appearing as a brand in AI search, right? So we have these practical tips in a second, but let's first dig into this framework that we're using. It's pretty simple, right? But I'm going to go through it anyway, so people can leverage this and start implementing it where you work, right? So we've split it into leading and lagging indicators, right? So we want to have a leading indicator of what's working. So we have rankings and clicks. So what is working, like more or less today. But then we also want to have a future view, right, of the lagging indicators. Are we getting like qualified leads, pipeline, close won, etc., right? And the way we measure the leading and lagging changes. So I'm going to go through right now these 4 different ways, depending on leading and lagging, right? And if you guys have any questions, please put them in the chat so I know that you guys can hear me, engaging. Would love to get some feedback as I'm presenting as well. So leading indicators, right? So there's tons of tools out there now for measuring rankings in AI search. At Scale, we're using a tool called authorship.ai. And we're basically defining what are the top 20 to 30 category keywords, BOFU keywords, bottom of the funnel, search terms that we want to measure for every single brand. And we want to be able to measure like every single week, how is this changing? Are we increasing? Are we decreasing? So there's a pretty crazy image that I found, which basically kind of shows you that every week it does change, but there's some commonalities, right? So this kind of like yellow line here is us, and I think this was for SaaS SEO agencies keywords, and this is, I believe it to be Perplexity. This tool we're using here, we can track ChatGPT rankings, Perplexity rankings, AI overview rankings in different geographies, US, UK, etc. So step number 1 is where are we ranking right now for our top 20 to 30 keywords, right? Let's start tracking this to get an idea of where we are today. And you can see like who's usually in number 1, number 2, etc. And there's way more data that I haven't got here because I only have, I think, 20 minutes more, right? So let me kind of go through this like a little bit faster. So that's step number 1, track your rankings, right? Step number 2, track the clicks, the traffic, right? So here's a regular expression you guys can add into GA4. Basically, you want to measure the referral traffic you're getting from AI search engines, Perplexity, Gemini, ChatGPT, etc., and build this into Google Analytics. So you can create basically a channel grouping to know how much traffic are you getting from AI search engines today. So you can measure over time: is it increasing, decreasing, is it flat, etc. And one of the most important things to think about is if you're seeing a decrease in Search Console clicks from like traditional SEO, is there a shift to AI search traffic, right? Sometimes you're not just losing the clicks, you're shifting where you're getting the same people from, right? So it's really important to have these 2 views and see how you can combine the data together to get a holistic view of what is happening in SEO. And at Scale, we are defining SEO as including these AI search engines, right? We still think this is SEO, right? People are searching for information. Let's move on. This is kind of like an obvious thing, right? So if you're using HubSpot or Salesforce, etc., you can probably see in your software where it says, for example, first referring website, like if it's first touch attribution, is it Perplexity, ChatGPT? You can kind of see this right now. However, the problem is a lot of the things you're seeing is probably saying direct or referral, right? You don't really know where things are coming from. Like many years ago, when I was at Typeform, I think 80% of the customers were from direct and organic branded. We hadn't like, where were they coming from, right? And the only solution, right? I keep telling people the only solution, I think 1 in 3 people that I tell implement this like the next day. The only solution is to add in, how did you hear about us? Like old school marketing. How did you hear about us on your demo form, your post sign up on an onboarding flow, and gather qualitative data to ask people, where did you hear about us from, right? Because why? Not everyone clicks. Attribution is not perfect. Customer journeys are complex. People change devices, like there's cookieless browsers. It's very complex, right? And we want to get as many different views of attribution as possible, kind of have different views and make data informed decisions into more or less where are we getting, where are people coming from, right? Because not everyone clicks. People like, things are complex, right? So if you add this, here's an interesting example, right? So in HubSpot for Scale, it said organic search and Google. That's where people came from. But when we dug into the data onto what people said, is they said they came from Perplexity.ai, right? So what I assume is that they typed into Perplexity AI, best SaaS SEO agencies or similar. They saw the name Scale. They didn't click, right? They Googled Scale. They found us through an organic search. when we saw this, we couldn't action this, right? So this is what I really recommend that you guys do, right? Add this, you can download the data every single month, the qualitative data, don't add drop downs, and then crunch the qualitative data through ChatGPT or similar to get to quantify where people are hearing about you from, see how many people are saying, Perplexity, etc., and leverage the data to understand what's happening. Look at the software attribution as well, and basically have two views and make decisions based on two views, two lenses, not just one lens. The mistake is using one lens, right? But let's dig into the practical things, right? What should you guys do to survive the AI search future, right? So we don't want to be this guy. I have no idea why he is holding a bottle of water. ChatGPT rendered this image of robots, destruction, craziness. We want to avoid this, right? So we want to start preparing ourselves today. So we've been doing a lot of tests, a lot of analysis at Skale. So I'm coming with practical things that you guys can basically start doing today to get ahead in the future of AI search, right? And if you have any questions, please again put them into the chat. We'd love to hear your thoughts, what's happening, etc. But let me go through the things, and then I'm going to kind of summarize what it means, what are the next steps, and these different types of things, right? And a lot of things are kind of doing good SEO, but we're kind of get there, right? So number one, and some of these things may seem obvious, but not everyone is doing it, right? So number one is AI search engines want fresh content, right? Especially, for example, ChatGPT, you can use the search mode. It wants to find fresh content, right? It doesn't want to leverage old content. It sounds obvious, but some mistakes brands are making is on their articles, on their content, but they don't have a last updated date. They might have a published date, right? But maybe you published the article 3 years ago and you updated it yesterday, but it only says the date 3 years ago. AI search isn't going to want to leverage this information because it thinks it's out of date, right? So what you can quickly do is just double check, do you have the right date on your articles, right? This is like a very quick fix that you can do because AI search wants fresh content. Another thing, which obviously is going to be a lot more effort, because I think a lot of brands are very interested in launching new content, but we don't spend enough of that time going back through old content, right? So we've been working with some brands, and some brands that we've been speaking to very recently who have contacted us to help them scale up SEO and to work on AI search, is that a lot of their content has been updated in 3 years, 4 years. They have very old dates. It's out-of-date information. It's not unique, right? So basically what we have to build in is a content update process, right? It sounds obvious, but we need to update the old content. We can't just say, hey, we published the content, it's ranking, our job is done. We have to update the old content. You know, if it's like software listicles, are the features up to date? If it's something could look like a how-to, is the information up to date? The other competitors in search, have we caught up with their information? Are we adding new information? Can we leverage unique insights and first-hand experiences, which I'm going to go through in a second, which is a big trend in which these engines are looking at? What we basically want to avoid is regurgitating just information from Google, rehashing stuff. You know, this isn't what AI search is going to pick up, right? They're looking for statistics, unique information. Obviously, this is difficult to do. And it makes sense, right? If everyone's generating, well, not everyone, but if a lot of people are trying to generate content through AI, and AI is just scraping stuff and generating it, how are we going to win when everyone is doing this, right? We have to create our own unique insights and information. So number one is make sure your content is fresh and up to date, and build in internally an update system. So you're not spending all your time creating new content, you're updating like content you already have, adding unique insights, which we'll discuss now, right? So number two is you have to structure your website for AI search. Okay, and there's basically 3 ways that we've seen work to structure your website, right? And I'm going to discuss them now and go a little bit more in depth into each one. So number one is you really have to add in schema, structured data, right? AI search engines. I have a cheat sheet in a couple of slides which breaks down every search engine, AI search engine, and what each one is looking for, right? So some of them, they want structured data, right? They're lazy. They want to scrape your website, find the structured data, put it out, and decide if they're going to use it or not, right? So you have to do basically a schema markup / structured data review of your website to see if you're leveraging for different data, right? So for example, are you leveraging FAQ schema? I don't think this is pulling into Google subs anymore, but it's leveraged by AI search engines, right? So this is an interesting differentiator, so maybe it's not appearing in Google, but you can leverage it in AI search, right? So now we have to think about attacking both sides, right? Author markup. I'm going to go into authors in a second, so I will leave this, but this is one of the most important things which is happening right now. Organization schema as well. Like a big thing is entity mapping. Like, are you legit? Are you a legit brand, or are you a fake brand, right? Like I said, in the noise of AI, where people can generate millions of pieces of content, are you legit, right? The big question is, are you legit, right? Article schema, how to schema, product schema. There's all these schemas where these AI search engines can put in data a lot easily, and they work a lot less. So what you need to do is basically do a structured data review of your website, go through all of these different things, and make sure you have this set up, right? I mean, if you're using some CMSs have plugins, if you're using something custom, you have to program it in, etc. And we recommend doing the JSON format. It's a lot easier for AI search engines to digest. This is like A. B is allow AI crawlers. So maybe you have them blocked, right? So review robots or text, make sure they're not blocked on your website, so they can crawl your website super easily. And also make sure your content is fast, right? Like I said, like these AI search, like this is for Google as well, right? So a lot of these principles I'm telling you now apply to traditional search. Like basically all of them apply to traditional search, right? So make sure your content is fast, your website loading is fast, right? This is just the same principles for great SEO. And also make sure your website renders server side and not client side. Like, did your devs program a ton of JavaScript, which AI search engines just can't render and read? So do this review as well. Make sure it's server side and not a client side. And lastly, content, right? So the way in which you structure content has changed a little bit, but again, it's still the great principles of really good SEO. Like all of what I'm telling you now is just great SEO. So answering questions, right? So a big difference is traditional SEO is more keyword based. AI search SEO is question based. Like the queries are a lot longer. I read it somewhere. I can't remember where, but like people are typing in big queries. I think it's pretty obvious, right? So you're answering questions and answer them directly and early. Early, why early? From the point of view of traditional search, people are going to bounce if they can't find the information, right? And AI search engines want to find the information fast. Include proprietary statistics and data, right? So like I said before, how can you stand out in this world of AI and as a brand if you don't have any first-party data? If you're not doing data studies, if you're not trying to crunch data from product usage, your customers, if you're not running surveys, right? You need to use proprietary data that's going to be picked up from AI search engines and will stand out from and also from users, right? There's a big thing on data studies and how AI search engines love scraping data studies, right? Another thing to take into account is conversational tone. So consider writing in the first person and in the angle of experiences, right? People, and I'll talk about it in the next slide or in 2 slides, is people want to know about real experiences, right? When people can generate content from AI, scraping data, putting together statistics, right? That's not a real person experience, right? So there's this big shift to writing in the first person. People want to read experiences from real people. That creates trust. You'll get picked up from AI search. You'll create a better brand. It's all in together. And lastly, what you can do using tools like Otley.ai. I've lost it now. This tool here, Otley.ai, is it tells you where are all the citations, where are the AI search engines pulling all the data from, and it gives you the list of articles it's pulling the data from, and you can look at those articles, analyze their structure, what are they including, and create some hypotheses on what do they have, what do you do, what don't you have, and then you can make changes to your own content and website. So that's a very valuable exercise that I recommend you do. And one thing we're doing at Skale as well, we're doing this kind of a citation and content analysis from AI search. Cool, let's move on. 15 minutes, including questions, right? So number 3, the famous software listicles and SaaS hey, and getting into publications, right? Okay, number 1, AI search engines love listicles. They're pulling in all of these top listicles, right, that are ranking in top 10 in Google and Bing. So for example, what are the top CRM tools, best email marketing software, etc. And a lot of brands produce their own software listicles. So if you're working in SaaS, you've probably made software listicles. And if you're ranking on page 1, we've seen most times ChatGPT, Perplexity, etc., pulling in these listicles. Usually what we're seeing is it does take off the first 3 listed in each listicle. It's doing some type of frequency analysis and kind of displaying them kind of at the top of the rankings, and it's pulling other examples afterwards. So we are seeing some correlations on being in listicles, who's mentioned at the top of listicles. So what you need to do is you basically need to have an always on outreach campaign. You need to get included in these listicles and get super serious, right? This is really competitive. But if you want to appear in the rankings for these super high valuable keywords, this is basically what the AI search engines are doing right now. They're also doing some type of sentiment analysis, right? So how you're explained or shown in these listicles, maybe even in review websites, do play a role in how you rank as well, because it's kind of analyzing the data, comparing and trying to figure out where should you sit in these rankings. And it is changing every day, and every day we are learning, right? And the next one is citations. So what I want to say here is AI search engines, they are looking for where is your brand cited. It doesn't matter if you have a link or don't have a link. The fact is you need to be cited in authoritative sources. And I'll go through how you can find those in 1 second. Right, it's looking at, is your brand present in authoritative sources when it's looking through articles, data sets? Is it seeing your brand? Are you cited, right? So this is kind of like more of like a PR thing. So work with your PR agency on this or build a strategy around it. But if you download those citation links that I told you about just a second ago, you can go through those domains and see how can we be featured on these domains? How can I make sure my brand is being mentioned on these domains? So when AI search is scraping this information and it's seeing your brand repeated again and again and again, you're going to increase your chances of being mentioned, right? So this is really like a holistic approach, not just to SEO, but just good marketing in general and kind of being mentioned out there. So yeah, I said a tip, you don't need actual links. You just need to be, your brand just needs to be there, right? So again, if anyone has any questions, please put them in. I see a few questions now. I'll go through them in a second. So number 4 is authors equals trust. So this links into the idea of EAT or EEAT, right? So I think this is going to be a really big thing, not just today, but going forward, right? How do we build trust in the world of AI search? And it's all about authors. Think about Gen Z and how they're looking for information. Social media, they're looking to influencers, people with some type of authority. You know, they're not blindly following the things you read online on Google. They're not blindly following the game system of Capterra, G2, and these other websites, right? In the world where the systems are gamed and content is produced by AI, people are going to trust people. This is what we believe, right? So that's why authors equals trust. And there's these different things that you can leverage right now to help you appear in AI and actually do better traditional SEO, right? So number 1 is make sure you're leveraging author schema, right? Why people want to read content from real people, right? Not bots. And bots, they want to find content from credible sources, right? So when they're trying to establish, is this good? Is this bad? Is this expert? Is this not expert? But looking for the author. And I'm going to expand on this in a second, right? So leveraging author schema. If you you can literally ask ChatGPT to generate this for you. And then you need to make sure your content on your website is basically backed by experts, right? It doesn't have to be written by experts. It needs to be fact checked and backed by internal or external experts, right? I'm going to explain now. So when you're looking at your blog, your articles that you're putting out there, it cannot be written by just your brand, written by your brand. No, it can't be written by a freelance writer. It can't be written by content manager. This doesn't work anymore. Like, that's dead. It's gone. It has to be some name has to be there by an expert, some type of authority in your space. For example, if you're in the email marketing space, it could be email marketing written by email marketing expert X person. That's going to work, right? So one thing you could do is you could have an internal writer and an internal expert could review this, and you have two people, two authors on your content. Or if you have no one internally, you can leverage external experts to be reviewers of your content and try and build this type of system. And you could also build this into like a really cool ABM campaign where you're doing outreach to experts who could be your ICP. They can review your content. You can get their names out there, and then in turn, you can improve the trust and the trustworthiness of your content. And how do you take this one step further? Right? I think this is the next step. The next step is you don't just have these experts on your website. Google's understanding the authors, and the author idea came up in the leak almost 1 year ago of Google's API documentation, right? But you need to combine this, right? This is step number 2. This is taking it the next step further, which I don't think many brands are doing right now. You have to combine this with your PR strategy, right? So the same authors on your website need to author content on the same domains, publications that your ICP is reading and the AI search engines are scraping. You need to build an author ecosystem of expertise. So when AI search is basically gathering the data, right, or people are reading, you created this expert network, which is being leveraged for trust and credibility. That's how you are going to rank and stand out in the world of AI when everything is being created by AI, right? It's all about people, authors, expertise, which creates trust, right? So yeah, this is kind of like the big kind of trend, I guess you could say, or the big thing which is coming up. So I definitely recommend you spend time thinking about this, building a strategy around this, because if not, you are actually going to be left behind, right? So 7 minutes left. I have one comment which is about this. Yeah, you cannot have any content which is written by company name. It's just not going to work. You know, people trust people. People are trusting brands a lot less. Like there's the author schema entities. It's in the Google algorithm leak. You know, so you do have to find either internal experts who can co-author the content. Like I said, you can have your content writer team be the actual writer, but you have to have it reviewed by or fact checked by an expert, internal or external. You know, this is we are shifting in this direction. So if you don't start doing this, then you are going to drop in rankings and you will be left behind, unfortunately. Sounds pretty harsh, but that is what's happening, right? So very, very important. So yeah. So you can have content manager, but you have to find an expert to co-author the content and fact check to make sure it's legit. Here's a cheat sheet, right? Running out of time, so I won't go through this too much in detail. You will get the recording afterwards, right? But here's like a little cheat sheet. What is each engine looking for? And this is thanks to one of our SEO experts internally at Skale who passed this to me. But what is each engine looking at, right? So here's a quick breakdown. Like for example, ChatGPT, they want to find like brand mentions. Like I said, doesn't need an actual link. Are using conversational tones. Are you yourself also citing like authoritative sources? Again, Perplexity. Yeah, like in citations. Is it fresh? Are you updating it frequently? Do you have that date on your content, right? Are you going back and updating it with fresh new content, right? Because I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. AI search doesn't want to scrape and basically include old content. You know, so you can see here, there's many things here like keywords are gone. You know, we're not thinking about keywords really anymore. You know, so you have different things here like technical SEO, like we discussed too. Is it fast? is it crawlable? Do you have the structured markup and schema? So AI search can grab the key data points that it wants and it can store it very easily, wherever it's storing that information. So yeah, these are like this is basically the cheat sheet, but overall, this is basically good SEO, right? Good SEO is this, so you can kind of see the shifts which are happening and where we're moving. So basically, the TLDR is SEO. It's evolving. It's not dying, right? So the key, right, is that you should start adapting now. Step number one is you have to measure what's happening right now in my brand. Step number two, start making changes and seeing how you're improving the rankings, the clicks for the leading indicators, and then your qualified leads pipeline, close one for your lagging indicators in that measurement framework that I shared, right? So let's prepare for 2035 together, right? 10 years time, the world where there's AI search, video search engines, right? I didn't touch upon video search today, another time, but that's a very important thing as well. Thinking about video search, creating videos, content repurposing systems. Do you start from editorial content and then do video, or do you start from video to go to editorial? So there's all these things that we'll cover at Skale in the future. But so we have to prepare, right, for the future today. I'm going to leave with this interesting, I guess, quote or text, right? In a world where AI content controls the information gateway, will your brand be part of the story it tells? I don't know, right? So yeah, like Emma mentioned about Skale earlier, but if you guys need any help with this crazy future of AI search, feel free to book a call. Happy to help you guys. No obligations. Would love to help. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Jake. This was a really cool presentation. Honestly, we have a lot of questions. Maybe you can answer some of them. I can show them on stage. Like if you can give like one sentence answer to those, that would be perfect because we have 3 minutes.
Yeah, definitely. Hey Tim, what's up? Yeah, so I think I covered this after Tim asked this question, So these I think I covered the key things that people can do, right? Step number one is have a measurement framework to measure what's happening. Step number two is implement these things I discussed, like content freshness, the technical things, how you're writing the content, and information gain, authors, and all of the other things. But yeah, we'll definitely share things after the call. I think someone asked, are we going to share these things? And there will be the recording, right, Emma?
Yeah, we will send the recording to everyone after the conference. We have a question: which platform do you consider more AI friendly for building websites, WordPress or Shopify?
It's a good question. Honestly, I don't know Shopify that well because we specialize in SaaS and we don't really do e-commerce stuff, But I think the question is more you'd have to analyze are they adding structured data? Is it easy to add structured data? I think WordPress and Shopify have a ton of plugins anyway, So I don't think it's gonna be that crazy. WordPress, you actually host it yourself, right? So probably with WordPress, it's much more customizable. If you're e-com, probably want to do Shopify for SaaS. Obviously, you wouldn't do that. You'd do WordPress or something, but I don't think there's a big problem. A lot of the CMSs are jumping on this, so there's no big problem. It's just you guys have to do your audits and make sure it's been implemented, or find a partner like Skale to help you guys.
Okay, I think that we ran out of time, but maybe we can say to everyone to, I don't know, maybe send a message to marketing@skale.so if you have any additional questions. You can send your questions there and we will make sure to answer them because we're running out of time and I need to introduce our next guest, our next session.
Okay.
Thanks, Jake. This was really
Thank you,
good.
guys.
I hope that everyone loved it as much as I did.